So in my last video, I talked a little bit about the importance of touch points and why it's so important to intentionally design every element of your practice, because what it does is it creates a narrative. At touch points, over time, when patients experience multiple touch points, they will start to develop a story of what your practice is about. And the first touch points that are happening, of course, are typically online. They don't usually come into the office to understand who you are. They try to do that discovery by themselves. But it doesn't end there. Once they come in, there's the touch points that happen in the office. There's the touch points that happen during treatment. And this all affects how willing they are to work with you with procedures and treatments, how willing they are to refer other people who want that similar story, and how likely they're going to remain as returning patients of yours. So we have to get very intentional with designing all of our touch points. And the path a lot of people take is to either avoid taking ownership of certain touch points, to say that this is what I have and there's not much I can do about it, or they design touch points without intention. They don't know who they're designing it for, so they create touch points that they would like, and it turns out that other people don't necessarily like what we like or think or value what we value. So in the description, I have a big list, a huge list of 536 touch points that I've identified that potentially affect you. So what you should do with this list is look at all the different touch points that your practice could potentially have. And by no means is this list complete, or there might be touch points that you have that I don't have on this list. So one that I know for sure that I don't have here is something like a membership plan, the names. So let's say you have tiers of membership plans. What do you name them? Or like a new patient special, what is it called? Everyone has new patient specials, but if I'm someone who's neglected dentistry for a long time, I feel a bit uncertain about my teeth and I want the quickest path to getting back to a healthy standard, maybe rather than a new patient special, calling it something like an easy catch-up program and framing the pricing and the offers and the structure around that context would be more effective. So even the name of your new patient special could be a touch point. The music that is heard on a phone call, the hold music, that's certainly a touch point. How much background noise there is when they're calling your office. These are all different touch points. So check out the list, look through and see how detailed or how granular things can get. And ask yourself, is this something that is relevant to you, first of all? If it's totally out of context. So for example, I have sedation options as one of the touch points, but maybe you don't offer sedation. So in that case, you would just ignore it. But take a look at all the touch points. Which ones are outside of the story that the patient has to tell themselves? And so we got to break down narrative and story. So narrative is what you can control. It's the different touch points that you have that if you align them into a certain direction, it creates a narrative. And based on that narrative, your patients have the opportunity to tell themselves a story. And it's not always going to be the same. Narrative can mean different things to different people. So if someone is, let's say, adverse to technology and someone leans into and loves new technology, then they're going to have very different stories they tell themselves whenever or regardless of what narrative you set. So for your ideal patient and their beliefs, what is the story that they have to tell themselves? And how can we create a narrative so that they can tell themselves that story? So first thing you have to do is understand what is the story they have to tell themselves. And by themselves, I mean your ideal patients. And once you realize that, or once you figure that out, go through the touch point list, look through the different touch points, and ask yourself, is this relevant to me? If it's not, just cross it out. And then the next thing is to ask yourself, how important is this touch point to the story that the patient is going to tell themselves? So like the example I gave, the phone hold music is likely going to be less important than something like how they're greeted when they walk in the door, or the level of attentiveness when they're waiting. Order the touch points from 1 through 4, with 4 being the highest, meaning it's critically important, 3 meaning that it's important, 2 meaning that it is mild, and then 1 meaning that it's not important at all. So everything that you've numbered 1, you can largely ignore it, or you can choose to also work with it. But you want to focus on the ones that are 4s and 3s, the ones that are critically important and the ones that are important. And then ask yourself, is this touch point out of sync or out of alignment with the narrative that we have to tell, or is it supporting that narrative? And if it's out of alignment, then you're going to have to address those. And of course, different touch points require different levels of investment to fix. So relocating your entire office because your neighborhood reputation is a touch point, that's going to be a bit more costly than changing your ringtone. So try to prioritize there too. Try to take care of all the ones that are easy to fix right off the bat, and keep the ones that you know are going to take more investment for later. All right. And as you do this work, as you start to align all the different touch points that you have, what you do is you create remarkability. You become exceptional, and you tell a story that is coherent. So the person can see the practice from the outside, see all the touch points that are online. It resonates with them because that's exactly what they want, because you intentionally designed it for that. They come in. When they come into the physical office, all the touch points there align as well. The attentiveness, the friendliness, the decor, the sound they can hear or the sound they can't hear. All of these touch points will resonate or not. And if it does, then they move on to the next phase, which is accepting treatment. All right, and all the touch points around there. And then to the next one, which is returning care and all the touch points around there. All right, so there it is, 536 dental touch points. I'll have it free for a while. This is just a first draft. I'll probably clean it up a bit more later, but the later versions are going to be in the course that we're releasing eventually. I'm still making daily progress on it, but it's much bigger of a project than I initially thought, so it might be a couple more months out, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, hope this video is helpful. Hope you check out the touch points and start to design them yourself. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.